Okay, so how's everybody doing? So this is part three then. This is going to be mainly about putting on the final washes. Um, Except I have to insert one quick short airbrush clip in here that I forgot to add in the previous episode when I was editing. I left it out for some reason. So I'll just preface this uh, at the workbench water-based washes, which is kind of the fun part after all this is done. But I want to just show you one important feature that everyone should know, or forgive me if you already know this, but it's about turning our airbrush into a mini pressure washer. But let me just give you a quick preamble on these airbrushes for just a second here. So I think I might have said earlier, do not lose this little screw retainer, right? And I've had this airbrush for over 20 years, I know for sure. Anyway, guess what? I lost this yesterday. And I was all set up to do this content. I thought, oh no, my favorite airbrush, right? I've lost my little retainer screw. And, we get attached to airbrushes, right? Because they become excuse me, they become an extension of our hand, you know? And they all have a different balance. And so I just love this airbrush. And so what I did was I went through my box. I have quite a few kicking around. I had these two Iwatas here. This is a newer Neo one, which I just really don't like it. So I just cannibalized. I took the retainer screw off this one. And guess what? It works. Good old Omni 5000. These people were really ahead of their time. Maybe these guys copied them. I don't know. And then this is an older Iwata HB, which isn't bad, gravity feed, right? But I don't like this big fitting here. It just adds more weight because you need the adapter. But anyway, this is my go-to airbrush here. And I want to point one more thing out. See this hole right here? Can you see that? There's a hole right there, which the other airbrushes do not have. Oh, what's that hole for? Well, you know what? The paint, like when you pull the needle, rather than have the paint build up all inside the cavity here, when you're pulling the needle in and out to clean, it scrapes in that little cavity there, like it picks up the paint and actually cleans the needle. And so you just shoot isopropyl with a brush through there, the paint builds up, and you get a much cleaner needle, right? So little things like that, right? But each to his own. Like, I'm not meaning to bash Iwata. I just think they're overrated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add isopropyl to this, okay? And I turned up the pressure on my compressor to about 90 psi or 100 or so. And what I'm going to do is, if you remember yesterday, I'll just insert a clip. Okay, so you see how you had that kind of corrosive kind of streak from the isopropyl I sprayed on the prior episode to this one? Well, I covered up a lot of it, right? It was in this area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, after this is sort of set up overnight, I'm going to just apply high pressure isopropyl up really close and work off some of this layer here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have a blend of colors which you cannot reproduce with a brush in the same manner, are just going to come out, okay? And then I'm going to address it later with washes. I want some corrosive on this larger pipe. Ice, condensation, rain would have built up around here in the hinges, and metal galvanized parts or whatever would be a lot of rust down there, okay? So this is the idea that I wanted to share, that I may have mentioned briefly before, about turning the airbrush into a mini pressure washer when using Tamiya paints, okay? Okay, let me just... That's the air, right? You want to move it around now. Okay, let me just zoom in for you, okay? See that? I mean, I wish you could see this live because it looks way better. Like even the layers here is really hard to convey through digital media. But there's so much going on here in 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Like better than what you could stipple away with a brush. The layers there, you see? And even some of it went onto the door down here. I'm going to leave that. That's how door... See, that's what I mean by taking risks and exploiting our mistakes. Okay, so this is also important. So you can see that, it's easy to go too far. And we all do it because it's fun. And, you never know what you're going to get. So there's a couple areas on here that, well, okay, maybe, right? So I'm going to come back at it with that initial banana yellow, and I'm going to clean it up a bit. Watch. See that little blister there? I'm going to leave that. Turn the pressure down a bit here. That's the beauty of an airbrush, you see. You can just control the layers. So, yeah, it looks pretty good right there, I think, for a flat coat and then some washes. And then we'll deal with the top conduit here with washes as well. Okie dokie. Okay, so here's the fence. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick out individual planks, just like railway ties, right? This is the same way I do track. You've all been wondering how I do track, other than using this red brown here for the rail along the sides and then wiping the top of the rail easily clean with isopropyl swab. I'm going to show you how I do each plank. So there's no hard, fast rule here, right? Like, I want you to be creative. Like, don't get locked into paint chip numbers and regimental procedures. Just throw that out. These paints I have here, I have like red, brown, flat earth, dark yellow, buff, flat flesh, believe it or not, and just my rail brown, which is 50-50 black and red brown, right? So I'm going to just keep a bit of thinner going. I'm not going to clean the brush in between colors. I'm just going to add a bit of thinner now and again. Some of it will be thicker, some will be thinner, and that's kind of what you want to do, right? Because when it's all said and done, you can go at it again with oil washes and things like that, okay? So here's a little bit of the yellow left over from the touch-up on the flat. I'm just going to see what it does first, okay? It might be too yellow, but that's okay. Here, let me start right about here. Get in really close, tiny bit. Just bounce around. Boy, that's got almost a white look, like a gray, right, over top of the umber. We'll call that umber. This fence is rail brown, right? This color here, a little more brown in it. But see how you can see the grain and the notch showing up, right? Okay, so just having the color palette here, just like on a traditional oil palette or something. That's what we want. We want the colors available. So when we get into that zone, you can just try different things, right? Just going to bounce around this is how we do this. This is how I do the ties. It's the same way. But you're never going to know. Your color and your tone's going to change with underlying base coats, right? But if you just start doing it, that's the fun part. Then you'll end up coming out with an effect that, I don't know, you may not be able to write it as a hard and fast rule, but that's the whole point, right? It's being creative. I mean, I've got just thinner with banana yellow here. So this is from the building. Okay, I gotta stay inside here, so let me just shoot a line there. And let me just dump that into the dark yellow. That won't hurt there. And let's try a little bit of this flesh, because this flesh looks really cool with the umber wash over it. Not just for figures, for figurines, right? Just let the other color blow through on its own. Let the flesh come in. Should come soon enough. There it is. You just create a kind of randomness. Am I getting off camera there? Whoops. I find too that if you get into a motion, right, you won't snake. Like you just go, you know, like go right off and right in. But you'll get into it. All right, that's the whole point. Airbrushes are so much fun. Oh my goodness, they're just so remarkable for model railroaders. The military modelers that love to do the dioramas, which I used to do back in the day. Just love that. You know, just what you can do. You can paint all your grass, everything, your ballast. And let the, you know, like don't, like add thinner, let it, see there's, look there, it's just thinner now. It's hardly coming out. A little bit though, see? See there? Try to zoom in there for you a bit, okay? All right. There's just a sloppy wash on there, see? Just let the brush do its work. Okay, let's try another color here. Okay, so maybe just, we don't really need black here on the fence, but I'll just, well, no, I don't want to introduce black right now. Let's try earth, or buff. Oh, no. See? What am I going to use? What should I use? Earth? Oh, here's earth. So all these colors are in the track work and the groundwork and on the buildings in one form or another. Right? So when you get this, like if you're doing your track, like your ties like this, don't worry about going across the top of the rail. Because you're going to be able to wipe that clean. And then when you shoot the red brown along the rail, just in the same way, you wipe the top. Let it, like you want it to rush and flood out onto the ties and so on. Okay. Wow, this is fun. I want to really get into this here. Okay, so now we see how we're getting the variation of colors there. All right, so let's try a little bit of this dark yellow here, which some of you Panzer modelers are familiar with. The Panzer yellow colors. Okay. Yeah, it's good to maybe have a black plank in there too, right? Okay, so get that airbrush out and have some fun. And then when this is done, then we can go at it with a wash again. But you know, you probably really won't have to. But it's no problem doing a whole fence like this. You want to see some more? Low pressure, right? So when I'm down to 20 psi here, okay? When I push the trigger, it drops a bit. Okay, so I'm gonna put that back. I'm gonna try a little bit of this rail brown here. And it's already rail brown, but See how it changes color here? Watch. You want that on the... You can go back and... You know what I mean? Okay. Let's throw some... I'm just going to throw some thinner in there now. And just sort of blow that out. Dump that. And then I'm going to try another little bit of... oh, I don't want to contaminate that flesh color, but the earth though, you can do a little bit of more earth. There we are. Just let the other paint come into play. Yeah, just take a couple hours and set up some paint and hover over your layout and just start going at the track. Right, you can do it right at the layout if you're under really, really low pressure, and it's isopropyl alcohol. It's not this heavy toxic solvent. And open a window, put a mask on, and have some fun.